So let me take this one step further then. She's created this in him. Not too long ago, I was in Austin on a couple of bills, and it was interesting because there was one representative in particular, James Tallarico. He seems to be the advocate for the LGBTQ, trans, whatever it is, agenda. He seems to be their spokesman. But one of the things that I had mentioned in my testimony is that, you know, Phil McHugh out of Johns Hopkins, chief psychologist or psychiatrist there for 26 years, and he was talking about this whole thing with gender dysphoria, but what his comment was this, is that when a doctor sees a person, he needs to actually knows what he's treating before he offers the treatment.
Right.
And when you come to these people that are saying that, you know, they want to have gender change operations, and that's not what your son is saying, that's what your ex-wife is saying about your son, forcing upon him. That it's usually a psychological need, or it's a psychological problem, it's not a physical problem. But to take this one step further, because somebody's putting him in that position, do you consider that to be child abuse?
Yes. I consider this to be, not only do I consider it to be child abuse, I consider it, even though it doesn't quite meet the full test under Texas statutes, I consider it to be sexual abuse of a child.
That was the next question, because I think that there's a lot that...
This is probably the most fundamental form of abuse possible to a child, right? And just to level set you, after entry into the Genesis Clinic, they put James on the Dutch protocol.
And the Dutch protocol is?
It's a very poorly researched protocol for doing sex changes on children. And it comes out of the Netherlands, that's why it's called the Dutch protocol. It was based on self-reported studies, it's horrible. It's a three-step process. The first step is social transition. That's why she started cross-dressing James, because she's socially transitioning him to a girl.
You're right.
The second step is hormone suppression of puberty.
Right.
And they use very powerful drugs. In boys, these chemically sterilize the boy for life. They prevent the growth of his sexual organs so that he'll have a toddler's penis for the rest of his life. And they retard the growth of his normal skeleton. So they're finding now in Europe, at kids that have been put on this for long periods of time, since they were like 10, by the time they hit 15, they have very dangerous osteoporosis, just at 15 years of age. It's a very dangerous drug. The drug they use is Lupron. It's also one of the most expensive drugs administered to human beings.
What is it used for? Anything else? Is that
so? There are very rare cases, particularly among girls, where their hormones get out of cycle and they enter puberty early.
Right.
And it can cause a lot of pain for them until the hormones catch up. So for 6 months or so, they can retard puberty till their sexual organs catch up. That was the original use of these drugs. The long-term use of these drugs over a 10-year period is not studied. We don't know what's going to happen, but we do know the three facts that I just told you are absolutely correct.
Yeah, okay.
We know.
What you said, when you talked about the three facts...
That it chemically castrates the boy.
Right, chemically.
And it sterilizes him for life.
Okay, gotcha.
And it can cause massive problems with the growth of their skeleton.
Okay.
The other thing is, and I brought this up to the custody evaluators, and they always look at me like with this shocked look, like it's like they've never thought of it before. You know, I've had this situation where I talk to these psychologists and I ask them the basic questions like, can you tell me the accepted definition of gender? And they don't know.
They don't know it.
They don't know what it is. Well, the accepted definition by the American Psychological Association is that it is a socially constructed identity separate from sex. Now, if that's true, and I'm going to, I don't really necessarily agree with it, but let's accept that it's true. My son presents as a boy and a girl. He could be socialized either way. Why don't we privilege the normal sexual self-identity? But one thing is clear. The psychological establishment believes that a mother could socialize a false gender identity. It's certainly possible since it's a result of socialization. The second question I always ask them is, okay, well, what exactly is gender dysphoria? And the way this has been simplified in the pediatric community is it has to be consistent and insistent and persistent. Well, it's clearly not consistent with James.
Right, because he's presenting himself in
Right.
2 different manners.
It's certainly not insistent because he insistently and violently rejects a female identity with me. And it's not persistent because he can change back and forth. And here's the other central fact. When I pick James up from his mother's home, he comes out of her home in boys' clothes. He wears boys' clothes at her home. He's okay with that. He's not okay wearing girls' clothes here.
Yeah.
So this tells me that whatever he's been taught to verbalize to counselors or to psychologists or licensed care providers, his revealed preferences show he would rather be a boy.
Yeah. So to go back to what we started earlier, you mentioned that there's a societal transitioning from a to try to change the gender,
Social transition.
the social transitioning, the hormone suppression,
puberty.
and then the next step is
Surgical transition.
okay,
And what that involves for males is physical castration. Right? They remove the testicles. The penis is removed and inverted to create an artificial vagina. However, one of the problems they're consistently having, Jazz Jennings, the famous transgender kid, had his own television show, had this problem. They had to actually take intestine to make this artificial vagina from him because he was put on Lupron at 10 and his penis never grew and there wasn't enough penile tissue to even make the artificial vagina. So this is the kind of like radical...
it's like a Frankenstein's monster.
It's mutilation. It's the sexual mutilation of children.
Yeah.
And it's happening in Texas right now. I've been told that at the Genesis Clinic in Houston, there's over 200 children that are in line for this right now.
Wow.
The other fact that your listeners may be interested in is that this is all very expensive.
And who's paying for it?
So the current thinking from the courts is that this is all medical child support and I have to pay for it. So
that is itself is abusive as well.
the courts are saying...
It's completely abusive.
Yeah, the courts are basically saying that I have to pay for the sexual mutilation of my own child.
It's kind of like, you know what...
Simply not going to happen.
You know, and here's
Not gonna happen.
here's the idiocy of this whole thing. It would be like if you had a daughter and you had to pay for people to come and rape her.
Correct. It is of that
And
level.
at that point, though, you would be an abusive person. But now you're abusive because you won't pay.
Here might be an even, in many ways, worse, but maybe a more accurate comparison.
Okay.
It would be sort of like, suppose Ann Georgioulas converted to Islam and now wants to have a female circumcision.
Yeah.
If I had a daughter,
Yeah.
female circumcision, and I would have to pay for her sexual mutilation.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. And as a father, you have no rights in this matter because and this is what you have to do based on the courts.
So I asked for, during this period, this is before she filed her motion. She filed a motion to modify to basically, it's really a thinly veiled parental termination motion.
Right.
Before that, I asked...
Surprise, right?
I asked to go get a second opinion.
Yeah.
I got a letter from her lawyer saying that if you take James to another psychologist, you don't have the right to consent. We will request criminal contempt against you and put you in jail.
Against, they said that to you?
Yes. So she's threatened me with jail if I take my son to get a second opinion.
And she's also a pediatrician.
Correct.
She's serving other people. This is incredible.
Yeah, she's a pediatrician in Coppell. Her website is drannmd.com. You can go there and see. And then, so she filed a motion motion to modify the custody schedule. And she's asking the court to do the following things. Number one, she's asking the court to order me to attend transgender education classes, which violate my religious beliefs, and to have the court jail me if I fail to attend or fail to get adequate marks in such a course.
Do you think the court would do that?
Yes, I absolutely do. The courts in other states have done that.
They've jailed fathers.
They have, yeah. There's a Canadian father that's in jail right now for using the wrong pronouns.
Yes, I read about that.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't just go to jail, he went to prison for it.
Yeah.
Secondly, she's asking that I be required to use female pronouns and the name Luna. And if I refuse to do that, I can also be jailed. And if I am jailed for that, then she wants my custody time completely curtailed.
Right.
She wants to prevent me from presenting James to anybody outside the home as a boy.
So, to go back to this prison stuff and everything, what would they convict you of?
It would be criminal contempt.
Criminal contempt. Okay, I just didn't know what they would convict you of, because I'm trying to think at the same time. You do this, how does that affect your employment? How does that affect your ability to provide insurance?
I couldn't do any of that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just thinking in the back of my mind.
And criminal contempt in Texas, usually they jail you only up to 6 months, and this is the kind of thing where you can get life in prison. So the judge would then, after 6 months, ask me, well, Mr. Younger, are you prepared to use female pronouns and attend the Soviet transgender re-education camp? And I would say no, and she'd say, then I'm giving you another 6 months.
Right.
And I would spend the rest of my life in jail.
It's funny that you would mention the Soviet re-education camp, because I just saw the other day that, maybe it was yesterday, that there is a Elton John's Rocket Man or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They are deleting the gay sex scene from that. They're not allowing that to be shown. So, I mean, it's almost like you're almost insulting the Soviets in a way. They would not even go this far.
Yeah, you're
it's
right.
worse than that.
You're right. You know, a lot of people are under the misimpression that Russia has outlawed homosexuality. That isn't true. Mm-hmm. What they've outlawed is proselytizing homosexuality to young people.
Right. Which is exactly what's taking place in America all the time.
That is correct. Look what's happened to my son.
Right.
Classic example.
Yeah.
The ultimate conditioning to this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
So they're asking that. They're asking that I not be allowed to cut James' hair. She wants to grow his hair out and hyper-feminize him.
So to cut his hair, you could be thrown into jail for crime.
Oh, I was almost thrown into jail already.
Okay.
So I'll get to the temporary orders in a minute.
Okay.
So if I don't do these things, they want me to have no overnight time with my sons and just a few days a month with them. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially they want to terminate my parental rights for all practical purposes.
But they still want you to pay for everything, even though your parental rights will be terminated.
Oh yes, and I pay near maximal child support, right? So I pay $24,000 a year,
and she's a pediatrician. She's making a ton of money, I'm sure.
Yep.
But somehow she needs to have that extra from you.
Yeah,
it almost sounds like some of this stuff, and I hate this. Well, I'm going to say it regardless. It's not just that she's doing this to the child, which is abusive, but she's also trying to. It almost seems like she's personally attacking you, to hurt you, to inflict pain upon you.
I can't speculate on her motives.
I got you. I know.
I can tell you that is my personal belief, that this is designed for that purpose, but I don't know that.
Yeah. I understand. I understand that. So let me take this a little bit further then. Children's Protective Services. Children's Protective Services, that illustrious agency that I absolutely detest for many reasons, but nevertheless, they are there to protect children from child abuse. They are there to investigate any case in which a child may be endangered. I'm sure Children's Protective Services has been involved and has investigated your ex-wife. Is that correct?
Yes, they've investigated me 3 times and Ann Georgelis 4 times.
Okay.
They interviewed my son without telling me at school. They are frankly terrified of this issue. They have no guidance from the Texas Health and Human Services. They have no statutory guidance. And so they have ruled that essentially this is an issue for the courts and we don't see any abuse right now. So my son goes to school in a dress. All of his authority figures are telling him he's a girl when he's not. He presents as a boy with me and they don't find any abuse. That's where we are in Texas.
And by the way, this is your taxpayer dollars that is helping to fund this wonderful agency.
Absolutely.
Wow.